Have you ever wondered what separates a master from an amateur wildlife photographer? Yesterday, I attended the book launch for the 10th year anniversary of Remembering Wildlife. And in that room, there were many legendary photographers, and I was able to talk to quite a few of them. And what I found out are 5 things that really make the difference. So I almost lost 10 years without knowing these 5 secrets. When I arrived at the Remembering Wildlife events, I thought I wouldn't know anyone, and then I was quickly greeted by somebody. Oh, hey!
How are you, my brother?
I was just watching your video this morning.
Tom Mason.
Oh, hi, Tom. Nice to meet you. So here's Andy Parkinson, world famous photographer, Nat Geo photographer, and the judge of Wildlife Photographer of the Year. And he introduced me to his friend Tom Mason. And then an hour later, I was sitting next to them and Margot, the founder of Remembering Wildlife, and Paul Goldstein, who was the keynote speaker from last year, and Will Barrett-Lucas, keynote speaker for this year. So looking back, just a few years ago, I was completely lost in photography. I wonder what it would take for me to become good. And in just a few years, I found that I was signing the book, sitting right next to them. I was no longer just a spectator. I was one of them. And these 5 things I learned through these events really helped me. So the day before the event, we have a VIP section at the exhibit for the Remembering Wildlife. And being an introvert myself, I didn't really know what to expect. And once I arrived there, I was immediately greeted by a few photographers. And then when they talked to me, hearing their stories about how they got their photos, I immediately saw one thing that we had in common. And it was further confirmed when I was watching Margot's keynote speech the next day at the main event, when Margot talked about a dead elephant that was killed by the poison arrow by the poacher, and that's how it kick-started the Remembering Wildlife. And that one thing that I found was that they all did it with pure love. So they were never doing it because of the validation, because of how many subscribers they want, how many likes they want in the photos. It was really driven by the pure love of the animals. Have you ever seen people in the internet these days posting a lot of photos and videos, and all they wanted was this shock value, the likes and those? And I think this is really, really critical in the beginning of a photography journey, to know that if you don't do it for the love of the animals, then it's not gonna lead anywhere. And one good exercise for you is to look at some of your photos that you recently posted or taken and ask yourself, was that taken with love, or was it taken just because I feel like this is going to win something, this is going to get me certain likes, how it's going to wow my friends and families, or it is really about, God, I just love them and see what I can help with them. Steve Pressfield once wrote, "The supreme emotion is love. Union and mutual assistance are the imperative of life." And I totally agree. Love creates legacy, and validation kills it. The pure love of animals is not enough to mastery. It requires something more. During the keynote speech by Margot, some of the people were wondering what would be Margot's next project, because after all, this is the 10th year anniversary, and each year there is a species that Remembering Wildlife was so focusing on helping. So naturally, people will be wondering if Margot has a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and when being asked what would be the next species, Margot always smiled and not answering, and that dawned on me. Like, have you ever looked into your hard drives and then you see that you got back from each trip, and each trip has, say, 50,000 photos you haven't figured out how to process or how to edit and how to submit and stuff like that. And what I learned from Margot, and also I talked to the keynote speaker, Will Barrett Lucas, that I highly admire. What I learned from him, and also I also talked to Richard Peters, who is one of my good friends that I was able to reconnect in this trip, and he has won numerous awards in Wildlife Photographer of the Year and Nature's Best and other awards. And I find out that these legendary photographers, they don't just go into all kinds of trips and take all kinds of species. They are always focusing on just one thing. And I remember watching one of the YouTube videos recently by the Diary of a CEO talking to Kevin O'Leary on Steve Jobs and how he was so successful. And Kevin said that one of the things that is so special about Steve Jobs is he was able to have this strong signal to noise ratio. And what it means is that every day when he woke up, he was able to understand what his objective is. And there were just a few things that he would focus, and he would only focus on that for the next 18 hours. The key thing is what is in the moment, and you focus on that. And for Margot, that is the species that she is focusing on this year, and she's gonna focus on doing it well. And in terms of photography, when I first started, I didn't just go for all the species. So what I would do is, if there is one species that I want to take good photos of, I would do crazy research to understand their behavior, their biology, and then I would study all of the iconic photos of that species by various photographers, and I would try to understand the use of light, the use of composition, what kind of moments they're capturing, what kind of emotion they want to express, and I would also analyze what can be the deadly mistakes one can have when they are taking photos of these animals. What kind of distractions can ruin those kind of photos? While I was on the trip, I never got derailed. I would be so focused on just this species. Even if there are sightings of some other interesting stuff, I would just focus on that one. And once I got back, when I opened my Lightroom and when I opened my Photoshop, instead of just say, okay, I got so overwhelmed by the editing, like what should I do? Do I follow all these gurus in all the steps on the editing? I'll focus on one thing at a time. So for example, if I want to improve on understanding the dodge and burn, I would study all the masters in different genres of that, so that I know how to do dodge and burn, how do you do layers, and how do you do the colors, for example. How do you bring out the colors in a raw file naturally without overdoing it? And I will study all kinds of it, one thing at a time, until I master that technique. One thing that you can do is, for example, for today, you say, okay, I know that I have been pretty weak in terms of composition. So you just take out, like find out all the books on composition, find out all the great methods on composition on that species or other species, and until you exhausted all the creative approach to do the composition, then you move on to the other things. But that is still not enough. So have you ever had this problem, like after you learn all the editing, after you take the photos of that species, like when you post it online, you know, the friends and families, the good close friends are always gonna say good things about these photos. But then there's never, you feel but the photos are still not gonna win any awards or get any of the, get published and those, and you wonder like how can that be? Then what should I change? How should I improve on that? And that I found the solution from talking to some of these legendary photographers in the events. When I was talking to to, for example, Will Barrett Lucas is the keynote speaker for this talk, and also was talking to Richard Peters and some of the other folks. I realized that they told me, yeah, we have known Margot, the founder, many years before she even started the Remembering Wildlife Initiative. And I was like, what? So you guys have been meeting all this time? And said, yeah, so they have always been having this small group of people who talk about photography, and they will brainstorm ideas, they will give each other motivation. The Outlier, which is a book that I really like, they talk about the 10,000 hours, but many people didn't realize that the 10,000 hours is not just about doing something, go in for 10,000 hours. It's about 10,000 hours of deliberate practice. And what does deliberate means? Deliberate means that you gotta have constant, brutally honest feedback. And in photography, the same thing. If you always keep on hearing the good things, oh my God, you're natural, you should be a natural photographer from your family, you're never gonna improve. However, if you post it online, sometimes you get this harsh thing like, oh, you never become a good photographer, you don't have what it takes, right? Then you give up, right? So what would be the good balance? The good balance is that you gotta find a group of like-minded photographers where you can learn a lot from them, and they can also learn something from you. And then this group would meet consistently to help each other. So try to, post more photos and see if there are people who give you feedback that you value, and then try to connect with them. That would be my idea. And when I first started my mentorship program, I was trying all kinds of different things, right? Sometimes I would do recorded videos, sometimes I would do some one-on-one thing, but I decided finally that I'm never gonna do one-on-one, because people, students need a small group, small community where they can brainstorm ideas and discuss with each other before they even talk to me. Of course, I would try to help, but a lot of the time when they work together, for example, they will start like these little projects together, they will go into a place together, and then they will share the ideas and then give honest feedback to each other, and that is really the best way to improve. And I was very lucky in the beginning phase of my photography that I got to connect with a few photographers who I admire, and they have been giving me really good feedback and constructive opinions where I was able to improve and not being lost in the track of that improvement. When Margot decided to have that Remembering Wildlife Initiative, he talked to my good friend Federico Veronesi, he talked to Will Barrett Lucas and some other folks that he had trust in, and they all gave a lot of support. Yeah, and it's almost like one of my favorite movies is Lord of the Rings, and you need a fellowship. You need a fellowship to support each other to achieve something that is impossible. So that is so things are not as difficult as you think when you have people who love you and support you, who actually can give you good feedback. So what is number 4? Can you even imagine when Margot started Remembering Wildlife? It all started from her in Kenya seeing a poach. I think it's in Kenya, correct me if I was wrong. He was in Kenya seeing this elephant that was being poached, being chased, and eventually die a painful death by this poison arrow from the poachers. And that frustration, that anger, a lot of people would just felt the emotion and then they just move on, right? But Margot was different, right? She decided to do something about it, and she turned this fear and frustration into courage. I can't even imagine how many times she failed at asking for sponsorship and support, and now she was in the keynote speech. She was showing us photos of these celebrities and conservationists holding the book, like the lead singer of Coldplay, Russell Crowe, Pierce Brosnan, James Bond, all these people, and of course Dr. Jane Goodall. So this time I was very fortunate to have one of my superstar students, Tori. So she also got a photo published in the Remembering Wildlife. So she was with me in London. She studied animal biology in her undergrad, and then she went on to some NGO, and then she was doing research on animals, like lions and African wild dogs in Zimbabwe, in Zambia, in Botswana. And she told me that one night her Land Rover, so she was doing it all by herself, and her vehicle broke down in the wilderness, and she, you know, there was no rescue until the next morning, and she was by herself on an open top vehicle, and there were lions, there were elephants all over, and you know, she never gave up. I'm just so proud of her that, you know, this year, this is the second time she got into Remembering Wildlife, and she got published in Nat Geo. Last year she was in Italy getting the category win in Siennas, and she also got the category win in National Wildlife Federation, all these kind of awards, but it's all because of that courage to chase what you love. There's also a quote that I really like from Steve Pressfield: "The amateur waits for fear to disappear. The professional knows fear will never go away. So embrace the fear." So finally, Margot, when she was giving the keynote speech, right from the beginning, she showed two photos. One photo was Mr. Vermeer Thapper. So he was the keynote speaker from last year's Remembering Tigers, and I still remember his passion and his energy when he was giving the talk. And later I learned that he had produced and narrated many videos of tigers for BBC, Discovery, Nat Geo, and those. And unfortunately, he was diagnosed with cancer last year, and he passed away this year. And then Margot also showed a photo of Dr. Jane Goodall, and she unfortunately passed away a few days ago. When I look at the photos of these legends and how they have been leading the way, and now they are no longer with us, you know, we always feel like, okay, you know, I'm so busy, I have my family obligations, you know what, I'm just going to go on another trip, I'll focus on really becoming the mastery in my photography. I really started to learn maybe after I buy these lenses, you know, just excuses after excuses, but you just never know, life is so unpredictable. Being able, and Steve Pressfield said that the best way, he said we have two lives. One is the life that we were meant to do, the other life is what we are living, and in between these two lives lies resistance. So like just some statistics. So tigers, they lost 93% of their habitat actually, and forest elephants were down 86%, and there were like 1 million pangolins that were being trafficked, and you know, cheetahs, lions, leopards, with their disappearing habitat. And we need every one of us who are passionate in wildlife photography to take amazing photos, to have the mastery to help them. And with the passing of these giants, it is even more important to do it now. Just a little bit over 10 years ago, I was working my 9-to-5 jobs, and every night I would go into the local Barnes & Noble, and I was just flipping through magazines and photos of the books, and I was a spectator. Now, you know, I suddenly find myself, you know, talking to these legendary photographers, sitting next to them, doing the book signings. So this is totally possible for someone. You know, I've never had photography training. I was studying electrical engineering for my undergrad. But you know, just with these 5 mindset change that I just told you, I was able to become who I am today. And many of my students are also making a huge difference. Like Tori this year, like Turgai last year was also next to him at the book signing. So how do I really get started? How do I know if what to focus on in terms of the my photography skills and those? So one of my videos, I share that are the common mistakes where some of the photographers who submitted the photo for free critique, and I pointed out there, so you can check out the video right here. And if you're interested, definitely sign up for my email list, and I will send out a link where you can submit your photo so that I can help you. So check out the link below, and I'll see you next time.